Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
And I'm JB Mannon, longtime listener, first time guest. I'm a game designer who dips his toes into magic design.
We've had you on the Discord for a while, so a bit of challenges and all that.
Mhm.
And I put out the call because we've got a bunch of new Eldrazi stuff coming. We got Modern Horizons 3. It's got new cards for all the Titans. And yeah, I just want to talk about it. But as we're getting started here, what's your favorite Eldrazi or most the thing that you're the most attached to with Eldrazi?
I love how how slivery they feel.
Oh, the tokens, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're running a token deck, you're taking Eldrazi that are gonna help your tokens be more than little wimps.
Mm-hmm.
Or use them to power up your other Eldrazi. Feels very very slivery.
It's maybe not as exponential as slivers can feel. Once you have 5 slivers out, each of them is buffing each other so much that it's absolutely nuts. Here, you're working a little harder. You have to be a little scrappier to make your spawns.
You can drop Eldrazi in any set, whereas slivers, you need a particular environment to really let slivers go, and you can't put too many.
Mm-hmm. No matter what your rarity level, there's a gigantic Eldrazi that you can stick in a deck. I think of common, if you've got a commons cube, you've got Ulamog's Crusher, a giant 8/8 with Annihilator for 8 mana. If you're going up to uncommon, a real classic one, I used to play a lot of uncommon commander. You got Artisan of Kozilek, which is 9 mana for a 10/9 that has Annihilator, and then also when you cast it, you get to bring a creature back from the graveyard.
Which is probably going to be the win condition that somebody knocked out earlier in the game.
Yeah. So we're going to talk through how Eldrazi showed up in different sets. Mm-hmm. And I think to start with that, obviously, we got to start with Rise of the Eldrazi. Rise of the Eldrazi has 19 Eldrazi type cards, so type line Eldrazi. 6 of those have colors in them, and then 13 of them are colorless. Only 19 in a set that's, titled around them, but they definitely have that impact. When you're playing Rise of the Eldrazi Limited, you definitely know they're out there.
Oh, yeah. What I found fascinating about it is the color mix among 3 green, 2 red, 1 black. Which, if you're talking about Eldrazi color theory, you've got to look at which of these 3 colors does each one of the named Eldrazi fit under, because these should be powering them up. Anyways, for later discussion, but I found it interesting that there's no blue, there's no white.
Yeah.
These are not creatures of thought nor peace.
Ooh, I like this. This is like a flavor text quote.
These are evil things that hate everything. And are so natural, they're unnatural.
Yeah.
How are we going to define Eldrazi? Black, green, and red.
Yeah. And just because of limited design, you kind of have to focus card types and different things. There are a whole bunch of level ups in blue and white in Rise of the Eldrazi, level up creatures. And you kind of need to concentrate them so that there can be cards that then care about them, so that color pairs can then, take advantage of that. And so maybe there was some need to have, to restrict it to a couple colors, but there wasn't even a little bit of bleed. There isn't a one-off blue Eldrazi. There isn't a one-off white Eldrazi in the original Rise.
No, nothing, which is fascinating.
Yeah. In black, we've got Pawn of Ulamog. So we got black and Ulamog being linked. We got Emrakul's Hatcher, which is a red card that creates some spawn. And then we got Kozilek's Predator, which is a green card that creates spawn. How do you feel about that first stab at colors? Do you feel like there's any truth to those color leanings?
Ulamog is he's the most hateful one, but it's slow, whereas Emrakul is about that speed.
Okay.
Emrakul is about terrifying versus horror. And Kozilek is there to stay.
Okay. Kozilek's there to stay.
Kozilek is a brood. The Predator creates spawn, creates the nest invader. I'm going to wipe out everything else, and everything's going to be me.
Rewrite reality to be all Kozilek.
Hmm.
All right, all right, all
Everything
right.
will eventually be Kozilek.
And then for the Titans themselves, the cards that we got here, we got Ulamog, who, when you cast it, destroys a permanent, has a lot of Annihilator, and then also is indestructible, which is not true for the other two Titans. So Ulamog, maybe that's what you're saying. Like, it destroys one thing right away, and you know that you're in a lot of trouble when Ulamog shows up, but it's more that you won't ever get rid of it, and it will eventually kill you. Um,
Yes, exactly. It's this creeping horror. It's Jason. It's Freddy.
I like this. I like this. For Kozilek, we have when you cast it, draw 4 cards, and it just has Annihilator. It doesn't have an additional ability there. It's really just the kind of standard Eldrazi stuff from there on out.
Hmm.
When I kind of came back to Magic around Innistrad, Rise of the Eldrazi was there, and I kind of knew of it, and I was reading all about it. You know, like the
Hmm.
internet deep dive where you're just like reading a million things and you learn all
It
about
was
it.
the coolest thing that
Yeah.
happened in that gap where I was also not playing.
They're just big. The smallest one is a 10 mana creature.
Mm.
Kozilek was kind of a funny niche there, where you could maybe imagine casting Kozilek unlimited, whereas the other two are kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
And then we also had Emrakul, 15 mana, has flying protection from colored spells, and then when you cast it, you take an extra turn. So yeah, maybe that's that sudden emergence, sudden takeover. Emrakul's here. It's going to take an extra turn. It's going to hit you for 15. You thought you were in a game. It turns out you weren't. Um, Maybe that is the red. It pairs with sneak attack and stuff like that too. Maybe so.
It's that red blue that Emrakul gets into. All right. It's a very interesting, like, it's very blue hatred while also being a very blue card.
Okay.
Like, it can't be countered. Flying, so in your face blue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Protection from colored spells is
Hmm.
a, like,
Hexproofy. Yeah.
yeah.
It's weird looking at these initial Titans because except for protection from colored spells, there's nothing on there that is, I would say, novel rules text. Which I sometimes imagine when I think of Eldrazi, I think I want to see something weird.
Yeah.
Even though at the time they were very striking, they were very interesting.
But the weird thing is their cost.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
These are late game threats. And they, because of that, you rarely got to see any one of them. Even one that
Yeah.
costs 7 isn't going to come out in most games.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's an event. It's
Hmm.
something special that you never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah. How do you feel about the non-Titan Eldrazi creatures? We've got It That Betrays, a 12 mana thing that whenever your opponent sacrifices something, you get it.
Now that Hit the Betrays would have gone wonderfully against a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
He loved to say he had a red deck that he loved to throw goblins at me.
Oh, okay.
I'd just be like, thanks for that goblin. Thanks for that goblin.
One that I don't know that I've ever seen cast, but certainly is a fun read, is Spawnsire of Ulamog, 10 mana, and it can put some spawns out, but then it has this extra cool ability, 20 mana, cast any number of Eldrazi spells from among cards you own outside the game without paying their mana cost. So bring in the whole sideboard of
Yeah,
Eldrazi.
I've never seen that, but oh my
Yeah.
word. If you got to pull it off, you would talk about it
Yeah.
for the rest of your days.
Looking at just all the colorful cards, all the black, green, and red cards here, I have a positive memory of almost all these cards. They hit a good mark. They were basically all playable. These, I want to make a bunch of spawns. You know, here on Beacon, we're always on the search for a crappy token. That's something that we really love. And the spawn tokens are one of the original crappy tokens, the O1 token that you can sack for a single mana.
Hmm.
And it's just useful. They're good. You can chump block with them. If you don't need to ramp with them, you can chump block with them. Or there are cards that like count the number of creatures you control, or you throw an equipment on them, or you do a team pump on them, or something like that. You can find a way to use an O1.
And that green ramp is so nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Creatures that are pretty on par, especially with an extra body,
Hmm.
and if you want to add a mana to your pool,
Yeah, yeah,
and then if you still have them around,
yeah.
they get +2/+1.
Yeah, Nest Invader, 2 mana, 2/2 make a spawn. Kozilek's Predator, 4 mana, 3/3 make 2 spawn. Both of those very choice cards. All right, anything else from Rise here, from Rise of the Eldrazi?
No, no, I think we're ready to move on
All right.
to Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah, next up we had Battle for Zendikar, which I remember being like kind of excited for because that we only got a taste of Eldrazi. This was when a lot of the Duels of the Planeswalker games were getting really big. You could play on your console or phone or whatever. And they actually would
Hmm.
pack little story modes in there too. So you'd be playing as Gideon against, all the Eldrazi hitting, the Sea Gate or whatever.
Yeah.
Numbers wise, we had 51 Eldrazi type creatures, 37 of them colorful, up from 6, and then 14 colorless, which is pretty comparable to the 13 from Rise. We are infusing more Eldrazi into the colorful cards, though we then also take some of that color away with Devoid.
The weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I still think it's weird.
Yeah. When we were prepping for this show, it's like I was kind of remembering some of the controversy here. So Devoid is just an ability that says this card has no color. It's like a keyword ability that goes on every one of these colorful Eldrazi cards and then just removes the color from them. It does make them weird. So the frame is a little strange on them. It maybe has a little bit of cachet because it is so strange. I don't know. But it is weird to like use rules text on this effect.
Yeah. It does something unique to it sets them outside normal magic. It's to break the player's brains a little, drive the players a little mad. And
Yeah,
judging by the reaction, it definitely did that.
yeah. There's so many more Eldrazi, like there's 30 more in the set or whatever. You see more of them, and that makes them, of course, a little less special. I played a lot of limited for this set, but there's some of these I really just have no memories of a couple of these cards. It's not like Nest Invader, Kozilek's Predator, where I'm like those two cards I'll remember basically forever. We also got a different color kind of breakdown. Blue is actually the most common color for these colorful Eldrazi. I'm going to call them colorful Eldrazi. As a listener, you can know that they are colorless, but blue is by far the most common, followed by black and then red and green kind of bring up the rear. There's no white ones, and then there's a lot of gold cards that are also different mixtures of these color pairs as well.
Which I think being blue and not being white is a good
Hmm.
place for Eldrazi
Hmm.
because white is a sedentary color
Hmm.
and it's about people. Whereas if the Eldrazi are the antithesis of anything, it is
Hmm.
people and they are of the mind.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're more mind creatures than they are physical creatures. The things that we are actually able to perceive with our minds are just a fraction of what they truly are.
Yeah, they are tapping into senses that we don't have. They're tapping into
Yeah,
ways of thinking that we don't have. Yeah. Okay.
I can see how that decision was reached.
The other kind of thing that came along with these Eldrazi instead of Annihilator, which is a little oppressive and hard to put on small creatures, we've got this ingest process kind of pairing where we have this ingest keyword. When this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. And then we've got these processor creatures that care about stuff in exile. So one here, Cryptic Cruiser, you spend 2 and a blue, put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard. That's the cost. 2 and do this thing. Tap target creature. So we've got, if your opponent has some cards in exile, you can instead, I guess, kind of poop them back out into the graveyard.
Yeah, that poop it out. That's a not a bad word or
I
not a bad way of putting it.
I think kind of the combination of Devoid having like almost no play value, not zero play value, but very little play value, and then Ingest being this very weird process. The general perception is that these Eldrazi didn't hit as hard. They didn't, have the same fame, the same cachet as the original appearance of the Eldrazi.
No, it didn't. Although I still love Desolate Twin. I still love Desolate Twin. It's 10 mana for when you cast Desolation Twin, put a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi
Hmm.
creature token onto the battlefield, and it itself is a 10/10. So 20, like enough to kill your opponent
Yeah,
in one card.
yeah.
Reasonable because, you can block both of them for a bit. You could probably take one of them. But still, just the dream of like, I have enough damage on the board to kill you is just wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. endless one, just a X mana enters with X +1/+1 counters, just super simple.
Yeah. That one's always good to grab if you see it in a draft because it can be, it
Yeah.
can come at any point and it's going to be worth what you paid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe part of the reason that they're leaning into this ingest sort of exile feel is that the big Ulamog card in this set also, when it enters the battlefield, exile 2 target permanents, and when it attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their library.
That is an insane amount of your deck gone. A third of your deck
Yeah,
no
yeah,
longer there.
yeah. Almost all of your limited deck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 40 card draft deck. Bye. My game is
Yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the other kind of famous Eldrazi from this set is a card Void Winnower. It's a 9 mana 11/9. And then your opponents can't cast spells with even mana values, and your opponents can't block with creatures with even mana values. You can no longer cast 2 mana, 4 mana, 6 mana spells.
Here,
Yeah.
you never had to care about this in a game of Magic ever. Here, like, here, let's do some psychic damage to the players
Yeah.
by making them care about this weird
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. $30 too. Yeah. That's a high demand card. I think it's the only one from besides Ulamog that I really ever see just scrolling through this set. The other big thing that we have in this set are the new tokens. And instead of O1s, we get 1/1 scions.
Mhm.
How do you feel about scions?
I'm just as big a fan.
Oh, okay. You love them.
They took away Annihilate and
Hmm.
they gave us more damage output. And you're putting out enough of them that it actually matters. And it's more aggressive
Hmm.
than a 0/1, which is something they were pushing towards even then.
Yeah, it's maybe a better fit in like a normal curve. Like, hey, I just want a 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop. And a couple of them made scions. Oh, now I got like 6 creatures on the battlefield. Now I actually
Mhm.
can beat down and hit someone pretty hard.
Yep.
Um, Maybe a little more painful to sacrifice. Does that make sense? I kind of don't want to use them for mana if I don't have to, but they're still flexible. Whichever thing you need, they'll do that for you. All right, so Battle for Zendikar, there's a lot of weird looking creatures. Do you feel like they look cool? How do you feel about the look of the Eldrazi in the set?
They went from very sleek and sci-fi
Hmm.
back to the old like dime store novel
Hmm.
style.
Like, what is that similar to? What are you thinking?
They were more like space ethereal versions.
Hmm.
Whereas this is no, we're doing Lovecraft. We're doing Lovecraft.
We're doing like physical creatures here.
Like Wretched
Good.
Griff absolutely looks like
Hmm.
something that was in one of the, I think the Hounds of Yith, the
Hmm.
Wretched Griff, Hounds of Yith.
Oh,
I think
okay.
somebody was having some fun with it.
Oh, okay, okay. One of the things that I remember thinking in Battle for Zendikar was like some of the creatures they felt a little bit like chumps. I guess that was true in Rise as well, but I somehow like that Gideon might fight 20 Eldrazi in a day.
Mhm.
It was somehow a little less mystical, a little less abstract. It was more of just like, here's a monster, here's a chump that's going to get beat up by a guy with a cool whip. Yeah, and after Battle for Zendikar, we had Oath the Gatewatch, which maybe kind of continued what I'm saying of like the Eldrazi are getting more and more downgraded into like chumps that the heroes fight. Like, because we've got the
Mhm.
Gatewatch, the cool planeswalkers are all teaming up. They're taking this threat seriously. They're forming a team, or maybe getting a little Avengers y.
Lots of fighting back, lots of scary monsters looking scared.
Mm-hmm. Getting absolutely zapped by a fireball from Chandra or whatever.
Yeah.
But the big thing we got in Oath the Gatewatch was we got colorless mana as like a cost, and then
Mhm.
wastes, and then Eldrazi that like require colorless mana, which I think actually brought a little of the verve back to Eldrazi, that they require a weird kind of mana. That definitely did it for me at the
The
time.
main thing that it did was it made me go, Snow could come back.
Okay.
Because I knew if they ever did Snow, they would have to do Snow as a cost.
Okay.
And when I saw colorless mana, I went, they're going to do Snow. It's just a matter of time. I was so excited when I saw colorless mana.
We had like roughly a similar breakdown on like colorless Eldrazi to colorful Eldrazi, like, but
Mhm.
a lot of these the cards are a little more segmented. You can't quite put as many of the Oath the Gatewatch Eldrazi into any limited deck because they have these colorless costs in there. They have abilities that only work if you can create colorless mana.
Yeah.
Um, which I think added a little bit of draft intrigue. I think my memory is that it actually kind of fell apart a little bit and it was a little hard to make that Eldrazi deck. But that could be wrong. 10 years ago, me talking.
It's enough to make it a challenge
Yeah.
and make them still have that rarity of showing up, even though they're a lower cost. They have this weird mana cost
Hmm.
that will still feel special when they come out.
Yeah. You can maybe be a little more aggressive if you have some casting cost hoops to jump through.
Walker of the Wastes. It's a 5 cost, 1 colorless.
Hmm.
Trample. Walker of the Waste gets +1/+1 for each land you control named Wastes,
Hmm.
which is perfect because you've at least got a 5/5 for 5.
Trample.
Even in a limited game,
If you can get devoted to wastes, if you can have a lot of wastes in your
yeah.
deck, which is the kind of dream that we want, right? Like we want to have like, oh, here's a reason to do this weird thing.
If he was my second pack pull,
Oh, okay.
I would grab all the wastes I could.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really make it into a monster.
In this set, we also featured the 10 mana Kozilek, which requires
Mhm.
colorless mana to cast. You're going to draw a bunch of cards probably when you play them, and you can counter spells kind of off the top. But more
Yes.
importantly, we got kind of like the cool looking Kozilek children, like all of Kozilek's brood, who are, I think, some of the coolest looking Eldrazi.
Hmm. Herald of Kozilek is my favorite.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. 3 mana, 2/4. Colorless spells cost one less. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Herald of Kozilek. Yeah.
He's a stalling
Yeah.
and building card. That could have
I,
also been green.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, cost less. Yeah. Some of the Kozilek Eldrazi are also like weirdly colorful. Like they have a weird shimmer, like a black shimmer, like a crow in the sun or something like that. Or I'm looking at a Kozilek's translator, which can turn life into colorless mana, and it's leaving behind like sort of an oil slick. Kind of gross, but I love the look of it. The- Maybe kind of like the original Rise of the Eldrazi, giving us this tease of Eldrazi and be like, oh, we want more of this. Colorless mana for me is the same thing, but now I want more colorless mana stuff. I'm properly teased. I'm
Yes.
enticed. I want more colorless mana stuff.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
yeah,
Put colorless mana
yeah,
into, like, don't put it on the cost to get a creature out there. Put it in its activated cost.
yeah.
Make it
Hmm.
the extra garnish.
Are you cool with colorless mana making it onto non Eldrazi stuff? Could that still be fun for you?
Oh, yeah.
Where would you put colorless mana as a cost? What flavor would you put on that?
Anyone who is outside of the norm,
Hmm.
mostly on your wizard types, but anybody like renegade or cultist, that kind of thing, I feel like should have access to what powers the Eldrazi.
Hmm.
If a colorless mana shows up on a plane, that means the Eldrazi have at least looked that direction.
Hmm.
They might not be there yet, but they're looking.
Eldrazi, kind of at their peak lore wise, are these things that are like either the garbage men or the natural forces, erosion, all these things that happen, but on a multiversal scale. Like they have
Mhm.
touched many planes, they have overwritten dead planes, eaten dead
They're,
planes.
they're super nature.
Yeah. They were sort of like imprisoned and used as a weapon in this case, but they had a purpose before that. And so their traces should exist everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some people speculate that maybe we could get some colorless on Strixhaven's plane, which is called Arcavios. Arcavios has these like giant archaics. I mean, there's like one of them's a commander card, but like these giant, like old, super old, 1,000-year-old creatures that like are sort of like ancient knowledge of the plane. And maybe we could get a little colorless on in the next Strixhaven or the area around Strixhaven. Plus, we got some like deep magic, which is what the scholars want to know.
Yeah, yeah, they're digging too deep
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
into the
yeah,
nature of reality.
yeah, yeah. So from there, people started to figure out, well, we're going to see Emrakul at some point, and then we finally got it on the return to Innistrad.
The promised end.
Yes, yes, the promised end. Yeah, yeah. We had sort of like kind of obviously hints in Shadows over Innistrad that like something tentacly was happening here, and everyone started
Mhm.
to put it together. But once they did, I don't know, the crowd cheered. This was like a huge hit. I had a couple friends who were only kind of into Magic, and then saw like noodly creepy monster set. Let's get in. We got to do this. We got some cosmic horror here. There were sort of two parts, but the marquee one was to me was Emerge, which was also like really satisfying mechanically. These really expensive creatures, how are you going to cast them? Well, you don't have to pay the full cost. They can instead erupt out of one of your other creatures, like creepy alien style, and you're only paying kind
Mhm.
of a split cost there.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah,
Absolutely wonderful.
I think basically all these Emerge cards I played a bunch of. Wretched Griff, like you were mentioning before.
Mhm.
Elder Deep Fiend. Oh, that was a great one. Decimator of the Provinces. I still cast that card pretty often. Um,
The werewolves were
yeah,
absolutely wonderful. I was already playing werewolves.
yeah, yeah,
Getting these guys was just absolutely great.
yeah. And that was sort of the other half of their presence in the set, where things that were like only barely messed up on the front side, like creatures that were a little weird, and then on the back were super noodly tentacle weird creatures with 5 heads or 10 arms or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
and a lot of the werewolves that instead of transforming day night, you just pay some mana and then it flips, and then you got a weird creature.
Yeah, Luenval Captive. I played a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
them. Get your ramp early, get your ramp later.
yeah,
Love
yeah,
it.
yeah. 2 mana, 1/2 defender. Tap for a green mana, so a little mana creature. Pay 7 mana, flip it into a 4/6, so upgrade that thing, and then get even more mana.
One no longer has defender, which is
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, keep poking at that bull. Keep shooting arrows at it. Just wait and
yeah,
see what happens.
yeah. I remember playing Smoldering Werewolf a lot. 4 mana, 3/2. When it attacks, shoot something for 1, which is fine. But then you could flip it and it would shoot something for 2, turn it into a 6/4. So you're definitely killing a lot of blockers with that thing.
Yeah, it shoots out a couple sparks when it first arrives, dealing 1 damage to 2 creatures,
Yeah, yeah,
and then later, every time it attacks, deals 2 damage. Like, here's a little warning: things are gonna get spicy.
yeah. Those all hit. There's a lot of good cards in this set. These some good ones.
And we loved our werewolves in Innistrad,
Yeah.
and then getting them back with an Eldrazi flavor was just wonderful.
Yeah, it's almost like 3-sided. You're going from human to werewolf in the previous set, and then from werewolf to Eldrazi. So you got like a double transformation there, which was
Hmm.
cool. We also got a little bit of taste of Meld as a treat, which was like the same sort of flipping effect, but it was 2 cards flipping into one mega size card, one double size card. You had sort of the barely kind of draft possible combination of Midnight Scavengers, which is a bunch of little guys, and then Graph Rats. And if you had the 2 of them, they would turn into kind of a big thing. But the one that everyone wanted to see at the pre-release was the combination of Avicen's friends, Bruna and Gisela, combining into Brizella, the gigantic, double size Eldrazi creature with a million abilities on it.
It's the card you put in your deck, hoping.
Yeah. Madness and Eldrazi are like a great fit, at least Emrakul and Madness.
They have tried to move away from madness as a defining characteristic of the Eldrazi because of the way that society views
Sure, yeah.
madness as a word,
Yeah,
um,
that's fair.
instead it's an all-encompassing for any mental disability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like, especially when we're doing the classic cosmic horror,
Yeah.
I think madness just it was a mechanic that had to exist. and this was the right place for it.
If we get new Madness Emrakul coming in Modern Horizons, maybe we'll talk about that in a bit.
Ooh, yeah.
I was scrolling through these. I think it's fun to just like call out a couple cards that I remember from back in the day or that you remember. Because those memories are part of the fun here. And one of them was another Duels of the Planeswalkers banger, another card I had on my blue-black control deck on that console game. Distended Mindbender. It's an 8 mana 5/5. It has a merge, which I would frequently use for 5 black. So kind of you have like a 4 drop that got some value, and then you pay 3 more mana and get this Mindbender. And then when you cast this spell, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card with mana value 3 or less, and a card with mana value 4 or greater, and that player discards those cards. So you just absolutely tear apart their hand, and you're probably doing it on turn 5.
I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah. Very good time with that card.
Then the things that you were holding on until then,
Yeah.
one of them was guaranteed to be a win condition, and it's just gone.
Yeah, I think the other thing that would be kind of brutal is like it's a cast trigger. So I've cast my Mindbender. I've just sacked my little creature. They see that cast trigger go on the stack, and they can't fire off their removal spells because I have no creatures in play. Because it's a cast trigger, the Mindbender hasn't resolved yet. They can't do it. They're stuck. I got them.
Oh, that's brutal.
And then Emrakul in this set. This Emrakul is sort of like a standard player as well. There's some
Oh yeah, I see this still.
the ending of the other two Titans was a little bit Avengers-y, defeating Ultron, and now he's completely gone. Sewn up these two Titans and they're gone away, Nissen and Chandra. But Emrakul sort of saying, you guys aren't going to be able to defeat me. But as a compromise, I'm going to seal myself in the moon. And that's what our compromise is going to be. I'm just going to hang out in your cool moon forever and for as long as I want.
Mhm.
That's always such a classic flavor note.
Yeah. He's coming in as a friend.
Yeah.
Look at those big, warm tentacles. They just want to hug you until you die.
There you go. Yeah, Emrakul's like, you can't fire me, I quit. I don't know how too many of these we want to get into, but there have been a couple other Eldrazi and a couple other places. There was a commander deck a little while ago. And then in Modern Horizons 3, there are a whole bunch of new spoilers, which is kind of what kicked off this episode.
Mhm.
It looks like we're getting a bunch more colorless mana cost, so we got what we wanted earlier.
Good.
We're looking forward to that.
3 colorless mana, Echoes of Eternity.
Yeah.
6 mana, 3 of which is colorless.
That's a funny mana cost to read. I don't know if I've had to read out that kind of mana cost on a design challenge before.
Yeah.
3 of which is colorless.
Whenever you cast a colorless spell, copy it. You may choose a new target for the copy.
Oh, okay.
If a triggered ability of a colorless spell you control, another colorless permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time.
All right, double triggers, double copies. Yeah, that seems cool.
Does that mean he copies spells twice? Because he is a colorless
Of you control or
permanent you
another colorless
control.
permanent. They hit you with the another in there.
Oh,
Another colorless
okay.
permanent. Yeah.
I was reading through it trying to go, is that right?
Yeah.
That's broken.
We had to do the legal read over on this rules text here.
The likelihood of actually getting this guy to do his thing is
You were believing that it could work that way because it's so hard to cast. That makes sense.
yeah.
Another thing that they're kind of doing here on a couple cards is they're kind of centered around this like 7 mana thing. This It That Heralds the End. Color spells you cast with mana value 7 or greater cost 1 less to cast. Or there's a thing, whenever you cast a 7 mana spell, get a bonus. Or as a cost to do this thing, exile a 7 mana thing. Do you think 7 is the right cutoff for Eldrazi?
For named Eldrazi, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the smaller color things that are Eldrazi but aren't the big scary ones. The big scary ones definitely 7 and above. Eulelek Fused Atrocity is only 5, but it could be 5 colorless or 5 of each color. or
Mhm.
any combination thereof.
This is our alternate history Ulamog plus Kozilek card. We got the Wooburg fused Eldrazi.
Yes. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
We also have an interesting thing all the way one, a colorless, and a green as a
Hmm.
casting cost.
Hmm.
I don't see any other mixed color and colorless casting
Yeah, yeah,
costs.
yeah.
When you cast a spell, exile up to one target non-creature, non-land permanent an opponent controls mana value 4 or less. If you do, Thief of Essence gains when this creature leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card.
Oh, funny. It eats it.
So I'm going to denying something and then
Yeah,
give you something that's not that thing,
yeah.
but it's going to be something that.
That's maybe even more Eldrazi than the eat and poop thing we were talking about earlier.
Ooh,
Eat and poop out something brand new. That's like even more disturbing.
right.
I think the last thing we definitely have to shout out that's been previewed is Breaker of Creation, the nemesis of Beacon of Creation. I don't know. That made us all really happy in the Discord when a card with that
Yes.
name got spoiled.
8 mana total, 2 of which are colorless.
Hmm.
You need to pull up Beacon of Creation.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't quite line up. Beacon of Creation makes a bunch of insects equal to your forests, whereas Breaker of Creation, I guess it gains you life equal to your colorless permanents, so it at least counts how many things you have.
Yeah. Hexproof from each color, not hexproof from colorless.
Hmm.
And Annihilator too.
Yeah, yeah. One of the ideas when we were talking through this episode and what we could do with it um, is maybe try to dive into these broods a little bit. We've actually got like I've just read, 100 Eldrazi cards, so it's like kind of filling my brain right now. How do we want to
Mm-hmm.
chop up what is Ulamog, what is Kozilek, what is Emrakul? I think I have some guesses on like what some of them should do, but they're maybe kind of like you were saying before. Planeswalkers, we know if I see a Liliana about what it's going to do. I don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
know what a Ulamog creature like Ulamog's Wall Smasher. I don't really have a good guess as to what that is mechanically. What do you think?
The problem is neither does Wizard of the Ghost.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I really looked through these. I really tried to find something that ties them
Hmm.
together, something like a strategy. So with Ulamog in Rise of the Eldrazi, we have Pathrazor,
Hmm.
which is a very black path to victory.
Hmm.
Spawn Sire creates a lot of spawn. Honestly, it feels more like something that Imrakul should have in this set.
Hmm. Okay. Ulamog would be just as happy having 100 humans to eat as he would 100 spawn to eat.
Yeah. Ulamog itself feels very black
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
its creature hate and
Hmm.
how it synergizes with Pathbrazer. Ulamog's Crusher, very black red in its
Hmm.
identity, and synergizes with Ulamog pretty well.
Yeah, so you got a big creature that starts eating their permanents, then once they're kind of low on permanents, Ulamog comes in and destroys the last remaining good permanent they have.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, he's just preparing the way. Pathrazor and Crusher are just getting things out of the way of Ulamog to finish things off.
Hmm.
If there's one in the whole set that shows what an Eldrazi should have been built around, it was Ulamog. Kill
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Hmm.
He's a murderer. Him and his posse are just going to straight up murder you.
Hmm. Yeah, they're just eating everything in their path.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
In Battle for Zendikar and Oathgate, Ulamog, again, seems very black leaning,
Hmm.
while Ulamog's Despoiler does something that you don't really see in Magic the Gathering much, which we already talked about, messing with the other player's exile.
Hmm. Do you feel like processing feels more Ulamog than Kozilek? You know what I mean? Like ingest process.
Yeah, I think so. If you were getting Ulamog cards in this deck, you were, or in this
Hmm.
set, you were looking really hard at that because you're getting to choose the card in exile, and you're getting to choose what you're putting back into
Hmm.
the graveyard. So you're playing your game, and you're also playing their game.
Hmm.
Also, graveyard manipulation, it feels very black to me.
Yeah, that's true. Because you're choosing what goes back in.
Hmm.
It's not quite like hand disruption, but I guess part of the reason it was blue is it's a little bit like milling. There's a lot of ingest creatures.
Yep.
Maybe that's why we got so many. Kozilek does also process things because we sort of see the landscape has been like dramatically remade by Kozilek's brood. You know, like they're
Um,
cruising over a landscape and that turns into this weird crystalline, angular, colorful stuff. So I guess they both do it. I don't know. It does feel anything about ingesting that's Ulamog can eat forever.
Yeah, I've noted a lot of things about like which color they really fit in. Trying to give myself some ideas, and I really feel like if Kozilek had a color,
Hmm.
its color would be red blue.
Red blue. Okay.
Yes,
So we got black for Ulamog, red blue for Kozilek.
yeah.
What you're thinking here? All right.
A lot of the cards associated with Kozilek are red blue, although it could have also been Herald of Kozilek
Hmm.
with its blue red ability or as a blue red card.
Yeah. Oh, that was your favorite. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Could have also been green card.
Kozilek has two realities, one in which Kozilek is it, and one in which Kozilek is mono green. And we
Yeah,
can't comprehend the difference between those two realities with our puny mortal brains.
and that's the thing. Kozilek wants to rage at you for not allowing it to take over.
Hmm.
That's the identity that it feels like. Again, not a very strong mechanical. This is what to do with Kozilek cards.
Hmm.
I don't want to collect all the Kozilek cards into one deck,
Hmm.
which feels wrong.
Hmm. Okay.
Just because I grabbed Kozilek's Artisan doesn't mean I necessarily want to grab Kozilek's Sentinel
Hmm.
and put it in that deck.
Yeah. 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 Kozilek to me is my maybe my favorite of the three, but I agree that it's maybe the least defined of the three.
Yeah. And maybe that's why it's your favorite,
Ooh.
because it could be,
Could be
you
anything.
could do a lot with Kozilek's cards. You can put
Okay.
Kozilek in a lot of decks.
Hmm.
You're just not going to put them all into one deck,
Okay. Okay.
which, for somebody who
Yeah.
loves building decks, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I guess the other funny thing about coloring Eldrazi like this is the home for them is basically ramp decks. So they all kind of unite in the need to be ramped out because they're so expensive.
Hmm.
Or maybe cheated out would be the other option.
Which is
So
probably why there's so many green
mm,
Eldrazi.
yeah. Because green is allowed to do as much ramping as it wants to. Ulamog,
Hmm.
it would be hard to have the mono black Ulamog deck because how are you casting a 10 mana spell? I guess like Cabal
Right.
Coffers or something. But yeah, it's like kind of difficult for it to fit in a colorful deck naturally because it's just so uncastable.
Except for mono green. You could mono green
Yeah.
Elon.
Yeah, you can mono green your way out. And then Emrakul.
In Rise of the Eldrazi, Emrakul felt very blue
Yeah.
white. I don't think its protection was actually doing much. And it should have had something that takes advantage of the spawn that's being created, like move the ability from Spawn Sire out of Ulamog and down into Imrakul himself and create some spawn there.
Mm-hmm.
In Rise, it's got a very spawn making identity.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess Emrakul, as we get into like Eldritch Moon, is now like twisting a whole bunch of other things to all be Emrakul like. I'm
Hmm.
not eating you. I'm just giving you a bunch of extra tentacles.
Yeah. And that's what I think Emrakul really represents is not Kozilek's all will be Kozilek,
Hmm.
but I am everywhere in everything.
Okay.
I will spread my essence into all of it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
won't all be me. It will all be unique, but it will
Hmm.
all feed me.
Ulamog is eating everything. Kozilek
Yes.
is like replace everything with my perfect thing. And Emrakul is just like, I'm gonna augment everything and be in everything.
Hmm. And in that way, Emrakul feels a little green, honestly.
Yeah.
They all have a hint of green.
Yeah.
The Eldrazi are four color, not white.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in like common, uncommon cards that feel like the Titan. I think the Kozilek sent the gold card. The what was the Kozilek Herald of Kozilek? That felt like it started to do that, but uh, yeah,
What you would expect from a herald to mechanically be similar to whatever it's heralding.
yeah, yeah. What would the other two heralds be? I like this.
Oh, Herald of Emrakul.
It starts, I don't know, putting counters and everything, and then whenever Cool arrives, well, I give grab everything.
Yeah, have the herald. Whenever a creature comes into play, put a counter on it,
Hmm.
and then Emrakul, when Emrakul enters,
Hmm.
gain control of everything with that kind of counter on it.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Would feel very, very Emrakul.
There you go. I love it. Alrighty. One last thing that I got cooked up. We're going to do these kind of rapid fire. I got a dozen mechanics here. We're going to see, is there a Titan that could use this mechanic?
Okay.
These are not Eldrazi related mechanics. These are just a variety of mechanics that exist in Magic. might get weird, but maybe that's fitting for Eldrazi. All right, first one up, Rampage. The more I get blocked, the bigger I get.
Awesome.
Affinity.
Uh, None of them.
Yeah.
That is not an Eldrazi mechanic. Just by its nature, affinity is a closeness to something. They're
Hmm.
not close to anything. They are separate
All right.
from all of reality.
Epic. Once you cast this, you can't cast anything else for the rest of the game.
Oh, all of them.
All of them. All right.
All of them.
All of them.
When we bring them back,
Yeah, yeah.
give them small mana costs
Hmm.
with Epic.
All right, all right.
When you choose to drop it, that's it. Yeah, Epic, low cost, Eldrazi.
Hmm.
Somebody please make a booster of that at least.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up we got a one-off mechanic called Absorb. I'm going to read this because it only appeared on one card. It would be like Absorb 1. If a source would deal damage to this, prevent 1 of that damage. So Absorb 3, prevent the first 3 damage that you take.
Right. So it's Shield from Eternal.
There you go.
Kozilek feels
Hmm.
or Emrakul. They both care enough about their creatures to give them something that would protect them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess like of the 3 Titans themselves, to me,
Yeah.
Ulamog is is like typically indestructible. So it's like even further past Absorb.
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, maybe the other
Now
ones would actually have like tough creatures. Yeah.
I could see putting it on Ulamog himself,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but not any of the creatures associated with like it wouldn't be in Ulamog's quote
Yeah.
unquote color pie.
Yeah.
Character pie? Character pie. That's what we're gonna call this. This
Character
concept
pie.
of like your character should have an identity that we can identify and a strategy to go along with that. It's your character pie.
All right. Next up, we've got Graft. This is an ability, an old Simic ability. I'm going to read an example. It might be like Graft 3. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may move a +1/+1 counter from this creature onto it. I wouldn't think a Titan would have this, but which brood
Oh,
would have this?
Ulamog for sure. That feels so icky.
Hmm.
But also Emrakul for like tempting you with power
Hmm.
and spreading its influence everywhere.
I love it. Next up, this one wouldn't technically work on most Eldrazi or any Eldrazi, but Conspire. As you cast this spell, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control that share a color with it. When you do copy it, and you may choose a new target for the copy. Let's ignore that it has to be a color. Let's do colorless Conspire. Who would have a colorless Conspire?
It would, all of them.
Okay, I get to tap my little Eldrazi to get a bigger Eldrazi spell.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
I think all of them could use some minions that do that.
Okay.
I wouldn't put them on any actual Eldrazi.
Yeah.
I would put them on either Transformers or cultists or something.
Okay. Something that's like still partially humanoid, so it knows what a ritual is.
Yeah.
I think I know your answer to this one, but Devour.
Uramog or Kozilek.
Okay. Dash.
Or Dash.
I can bring you out for. So Dash is you can sort of cast it, and it'll have haste, but it'll bounce back to your hand at end of turn. So it only is there for a little while.
I don't know. I'm good for Kozilek because of the green feeling.
Okay, hand size.
And
Yeah, one of the
yeah,
Kozileks like filled your hand up. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. You know what's interesting is would be a variation on it where when it bounces back to exile.
Hmm. And then you need some way to do. Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we've got Undaunted. This is another weird one. This was a commander one. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each opponent. Who is the one that's going to take on a lot of opponents?
Kozilek.
Kozilek.
Or Ulamog. Yeah, let's go with Ulamog.
Okay.
Kozilek was my first choice because anytime you've got something direct, Kozilek feels like the right answer. But no, I think it's Ulamog.
Kozilek, I do see like the second Kozilek card is like, I'm going to have a million cards in hand and I'm going to be countering everybody's stuff. I do agree that there's a wiggle room there, but yeah, Ulamog is also just gigantic. Try to stop me, no matter how many you
Maybe
bring.
primary Ulamog, secondary and Kozilek.
Next one, we got Escape. So I'm going to eat up my graveyard to come back.
Ulamog.
Yeah, snacking up.
Yeah. Devouring that graveyard.
Alrighty. And then my last one here that I got is Decayed. This is another one that I probably wouldn't put on a Titan. But which one has minions that are the most disposable?
But if you did put it on one of the Titans, what does that mean?
Fair enough.
Anyways, I feel like I've answered Ulamog for way too many of them.
All right, let's force it into one of the other ones. Which one, if we had to force it?
I think Emrakul.
Okay. Emrakul is sort of taking over all organisms, but those organisms are also just there to do their thing and then die.
Emrakul cares about everything, including the Mayflies. Emrakul still wants to be a part of them.
We need a lot of quantity with Emrakul. Emrakul needs like a humongous army.
What made them so caring and loving and also terrifying in this episode. I hope everyone has taken some psychic damage from that.
All right, those are a quick dozen keyword roundup there. Anything else we want to say about Eldrazi before we start to wrap up?
I designed a colorless mana cost creature.
Okay.
It's red, it costs 1 red. It's a 1/1
Yeah.
and has colorless. This creature gains ingest until end of turn. So put it on a cultist and show the cultist's jaw distending
Oh, okay.
as it's walking up behind a scholar reading, reading a book.
I want this to be the token. I want this to be, instead of mercenaries, we've got these devour tokens, or these ingest tokens rather.
One for each color.
Oh, okay. Yeah, remix it. Yeah, I like it. Or one for each Titan.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So and so's devour.
Yeah. We'll split up instead of one spawn that fits them all. We'll do different ones.
It would be really interesting to crack a pack with that and that.
Yeah.
And
Or
then
just see the token and wonder what that means. Yeah, yeah.
see the next one come across with a totally different color identity. What
Mhm.
is that? It's the same
Yeah.
thing, but what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I just wanted to share that because I was like, I've got
I
a
like
really
it.
great idea. I don't want to spit it out right now.
I love it. I
I've
love
got
it.
something to throw it out.
This is our chance. All right, my mind is sufficiently broken from dealing with all these otherworldly creatures. But before we get out of here, you've got just a couple days left to get in for our May design challenge. We do these every month. We read them on the podcast. We talk about them, critique them, all that kind of stuff. If you want your card on the show, this is the way to do it. The May design challenge is you may cast it, design a Cascade card for 60 card play for a color combination that hasn't had it yet in that kind of environment. Blue, red, white, black, green. One of those four pairs. We got some bonus points as usual. Sound the Alara, give it Alara flavor. That was last month. Last month was about flowers. Don't make it a Mayflower. And then Mayhem, care about or use cards in graveyards. Then we have a thing that's not quite a bonus point, just a bonus rule. You can also use Discover instead of Cascade.
Hmm.
Have you made your challenge submission? Have you thought about this at all?
I thought about it pretty hard. I was going to make exactly a Mayflower
Oh,
because
flaunt the bonus points. I like this.
honestly, I don't want that one. But I could not.
Hmm.
The design space was so open. I
Oh,
might need
okay.
to dig into Alara cards
Hmm.
and see if something really jumps out to me in one of the color combos
Hmm.
as being useful to have Discover or Cascade
Yeah, yeah.
used on it. I was trying to find enough constriction to find that perfect card in my head, and the do not make it a flower, turning it on its head to make a flower was the only thing I could come up with
Hmm.
to really narrow it down, and even that just wasn't doing it for me.
All right, all right, all right. But I always look forward to reading those. So whatever people send in, we're going to be looking forward to that. And that is our podcast for the week. Join the Discord, all the actions on there. We got You Make the Pack, we got Design League, we got all kinds of stuff popping off there, even if the May challenge wasn't your thing. Thanks for coming on, JB. It was great.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Any stuff you want to plug? Any projects you have? Anything like that?
Check out my stuff over at Drive Through RPG, where I've published games and supplements.
Oh, okay.
Just go on there and search at the table,
At the Table Games. Okay, yeah.
and you can find all my stuff.
Love that. Yeah.
Put a link in the description.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get that in there. All right, I'll have to check that out. Oh, you got a whole ton of stuff in here. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Very fun. Dungeon World. All right. So
It's my favorite.
you can find us on the Discord. If it's not Drive Through RPG, you can find us on the Discord.
I'm JB Mannon over there.
I'm Tim F. Riley, and thanks for listening.